This is a conversation for the ages when it comes to NBA debate and just general discourse around the sport. Who is the GOAT? Who's the number one guy? Are you a LeBron person? Are you a Jordan person? Do you like Kareem? In this episode, we're going to run down the top 10 NBA GOATs for NBA lore. So I'm here with Jacob Sutton and my man Ethan, the advisor. Clayton, welcome to the show, fellas.
Hey, what's up, fam? Robin, thanks for having me, my man.
Hold up a minute. Let me do
man.
that again. I think I had a mute situation here. I had you guys muted.
All good.
Get my headphones going. We got Jacob Sutton and Ethan, the advisor. Clayton, here on the show. Welcome to NBA 360, fellas.
What is up, fam? Robin, thanks for having me. I'm so stoked for this.
Yeah, Robin, I appreciate it as well. I'm super stoked, like Ethan said, to be here.
Well, I've been following you guys for a while. Love what you're doing online. And I thought that you would be the perfect candidates to kick us off with this discussion. So let's just start with you, Jacob. Everyone has their GOAT list. Can you run down your top 10 NBA GOATs for us?
Yeah, for sure. Before I dive into that really briefly, all these lists are subjective, but the main things I look at are: were you productive on the court, stats and impact? Were you able to win? What was the context of your era? How did your team impact your play, your mentality, your cultural and game impact? And because we're going to talk about LeBron and a couple other guys, did you have career longevity? And that's kind of what I look at. So,
can I jump in on that, Jacob? I want to commend you because oftentimes when we have these discussions online, people are just like throwing out their opinions. Like it's like, yeah, why? Because he won this many championships. But I love that you have like a criteria. So go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So at number 10, I'll go 10 through 1. My 10th is Shaquille O'Neal. Now, as a Rockets homer, I was very, very close to putting Hakeem here just because I love Hakeem. Beautiful, beautiful basketball player. But they say when you have an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, right? But the problem is what happens when you have a player who is both of those at the same time. And Shaq, I mean, you look at all of his stats: 23 points per game, 10 rebounds per game, 2.5 assists, 0.6 steals, 2.3 blocks, 58% field goal. Like, this man was not able to be stopped even when he was a rookie. And the ability to come onto the court as a rookie and just dominate and look like you're a man amongst boys is phenomenal. And the only reason I have him 10, and some could make the argument that he's higher, is the mentality factor, right? Throughout his career, there was the problem of, does Shaq really want to work hard? And, he played with Kobe and Kobe really pushed him. And the mentality factor is really what prevents me from putting him 9, 8, 7, and all that. But overall, Shaq was absolutely unstoppable. Then at 9, I kind of have to go with the easy answer here is Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace to Bean. When you play basketball at such a beautiful level that people compare you to Michael Jordan, you're kind of special, right? And Kobe's Mamba mentality kind of puts him in the top 10 for me just because he was so hungry to win, right? 5-time champion, 18-time All-Star, 12-time All-Defense. And I think we honestly underrate Kobe's defense when we talk about how good was Kobe in a vacuum. We talk about his offense, obviously, but the man was so tenacious on the ball that opponents just didn't want to be matched up with him. And when you're able to step onto a court and just the other side just fears you both on offense and defense, I think that goes a long way. Nearly 20 years of elite play, fierce competitor, scored 81 points. But the problem is, the shot chucker mentality, the efficiency is often criticized on multiple fronts. And that's kind of why I don't have him higher than where he is here. But overall, Kobe is one of my favorite players all time, and all the power to him. Then at 8.
Jacob, real quick. We're like 2 for 2 on Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to need to diversify the portfolio, friend.
Hey, don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not even a Lakers fan. That's the funny part about it.
I got 3 Lakers. I got 3 on my list. I got 3. Hey. I got 4 Lakers on my list. My bad. I got 4. Not a Lakers fan.
Not a Lakers fan either. Honestly, Actually, I'm not going to hate. The Lakers are fine, but
No, they are not. They are not fine. They are not fine.
They are not okay. They are not okay.
Hey,
we'll save that for another episode, though. My bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, this next one, you'll like this next one if you want to hate on the Lakers. Number 8, Bill Russell. Now, a lot of people will tell you this man was an 11-time champ. He should be top 5 because rings.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go into a whole spiel about the dangers of ring culture. But what I will say is that Bill Russell as an individual is the most winning player in terms of what did he contribute to his team, what role was he willing to play, and just how suffocating of a defender he was. Blocks weren't recorded in his era, so we don't really have the stats on that. But when you watch the tape that we do have on Bill Russell, oh my gosh, this man, you drive at the rim. He doesn't even need a help side defender. He doesn't need help defenders. You come at him, he's going to block you. It's just going to happen. And he probably would have averaged, I've seen estimates between 5 to 8 blocks per game if they track blocks in that era. And once again, cultural superstar. Yeah, just a little bit. Wembanyama might go and beat that record, but that's a topic for another time. Yeah. But the main reason I have him 8 here, and some people say top 5, because of all the wins, is the era was just weaker. This is something I'll get into with Wilt Chamberlain in a second here. And even though Bill Russell was suffocating defensively, he wasn't the offensive force that could just take over games, right? And that's something I look at as a basketball player of how good are you on the offensive side of the ball where you can just take over a game. And if you can't do that, I can't have you in the top 5, and I probably can't have you in the top 7. So that's why I have him here. And that's also why I have at number 7, Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt, of course, 100 points. The offensive dominance, like I said, that plays a big factor into my rankings. 30 points per game, 22 rebounds per game, 4.4 assists, 54% field goal. That is probably the most absurd stat line you will ever see in any sport if you were to, just take it in a vacuum. Holds, and this is something I had to fact check because I didn't actually believe it. Wilt Chamberlain holds 72 NBA records. 72. And the majority of those are not going to be broken anytime soon. 4-time MVP, 13-time All-Star, 7-time scoring champ, 11-time rebounding champ, 26 in player efficiency rating, which is top 5 all-time regardless of era. Once again,
let me jump in on Wilt, because this one comes up a lot because the internet, especially like on TikTok, right? TikTok it's happening on TikTok, these discussions, and people fail to honor this guy, Wilt Chamberlain, because of the era piece, the thing you talked about a little earlier. But if I look at his career stats, Jake, is it okay if I call you Jake? Do people call you Jake? Okay.
Yeah, call me
check this out.
Jake, Jason, whatever you want.
If you watch it, Jacob, they go from he's averaging 50 and 20, right? It's insane. And then reality hits. The NBA changes, he gets older, and it's almost like his last few years kind of tanked his career averages, because if he would have ended his career a little earlier, maybe 5 or 6 years earlier, he might have finished his career as a 45-point a game scorer, which is insane to me. So I just wanted to add that piece on what's happening. People have no respect for Wilt Chamberlain right now in this current TikTok culture of discussing NBA.
Well, I completely agree, and I think part of that, and this is partially why I have him number 7 instead of higher, is the footage is extremely limited on Wilt's overall career. If we had more footage, you could probably make a case, if the footage is all phenomenal, which we do have some footage, but we don't have a lot of it, especially, once again, the fabled 100-point game. I think you could make an argument for him to be higher. But when you take into account the era and the limited footage, and some of the stat keeping is a little incomplete from that era, you kind of have to put him in this conversation with Bill Russell of, they're top 10 guys 100%. But can you confidently say they're top 5? I'm not sure. But there is a guy who I was really close to putting in the top 5, but I couldn't quite do it. And that's Larry Bird. And I have Larry number 6. I know. I was so close. I was so close. The stats, you look at them on paper, 24 points per game,
Mhm.
10 rebounds, 6.3 assists. Once again, underrated passer. After I was looking at the tape, I didn't realize how good of a passer Bird was. 49% from the field, 37% from three-point range in an era that nobody was taking those kind of shots, right? Three-time champ, three-time MVP, amazing trash talker, probably the best trash talker we've ever seen in the history of the game, according to what some players have said. And like I said, I was really close to putting in the top 5. And the reason I didn't do that is Magic Johnson generally got the better of Bird. And I'm going to talk about
True.
Magic in a second. But
It's so true.
when you look at the head-to-head, Magic got the better of them. And it's not to, degrade Larry, but Magic was incredible. And he had a shorter prime than another guy on my list, Tim Duncan. His defense was strong, but in my opinion, wasn't as strong as some of the guys in the top 5 that I have, which is what prevents me from pushing him up. But once again, Larry Bird's Larry Bird. You can't take away what he's done for the history of the game, the history of three-point shooters, trash talking, all that stuff. But like I said, he can't quite get into the top 5 because of a couple guys. One is going to be Magic Johnson, which you'll find out where I have him in a second. But first, Tim Duncan. Personally, my favorite guy that I wanted to put in the top 3 because I would, but like with all these guys, there's some caveats.
Man,
So,
and this is coming from a Rockets fan once again.
It's coming from a Rockets fan.
Woo.
And Timmy, man, the big fundamental. 19 points per game, 10 rebounds, 3 assists. And when I was looking at the stats, I was like, he only averaged 19 a game.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? Like, can I really put him in the top 5? But then I realized he played the game in a way, and the Spurs played the game in a way that really hindered his ability to score tons of points. They played slower. They played a very distributed form of basketball. They were very, as they say, fundamental. And I think that kind of limits Timmy's stats in the public eye, along with the personality thing where everybody's like, oh, he doesn't have the charisma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that does play into my rankings because, like I said, your cultural impact on the game should matter as a quote unquote greatest of all time. But I mean, man, 15 times all defense. I think one of the top players in career plus minus. He thrived in a competitive 2000s era that very few other players were able to break through. And he did it by playing the game the right way, right? And most fundamentally sound player ever. And that's something I'll stand on, even with Jordan, LeBron, all these guys. Most fundamentally sound player ever.
And that's Timmy at 5, right, Jake?
That's Timmy at 5.
I'm super high on Tim Duncan. And when I was younger, I couldn't really appreciate his game, especially growing up like a Jordan fan, like into that kind of like, above the rim, flamboyant almost, kind of showmanship. And I didn't get it for many years, and then now later in life, thinking about like just his report card, if you will, right? It's impeccable. And I definitely have him in my top 10. I love that one.
Yeah. Love Timmy. And like all these guys, everything's so close, right? These lists are so subjective that there's so many guys, it's tough to put one over the other.
I got one though that's gonna you said a guy's name earlier on your list who I get a lot of crap about not having him on my list. I'll share that a little bit later with you guys.
Ooh.
But I got a guy that I'd never put on my list, and I just, because of my criteria, and almost everyone disagrees. So I'll share that with you guys later on in the episode.
Very excited for that. So number 4 is, like I said earlier, Magic Johnson. Got the better of Larry Bird, got the better of pretty much everybody who he faced. And this man made the NBA so much more fun, in my opinion. 19.5 points per game, which from a scoring perspective, it's like, oh, that's under 20 points per game. But then you realize he also averaged 7.2 rebounds, 11.2 assists per game, which is still the career high for assists per game in a career. 5-time champion, 3-time final MVP, 3-time MVP, 32 games of 20 plus assists. That blew my mind, because when a guy does 32 games of 20 plus assists,
that's wild.
That's half of an NBA season.
You have Elfrid Payton on the Pelicans get 20 plus assists, and everybody's like, wow, look at this guy. No, like Magic Johnson did 20 plus assists 32 times. Somehow that's still only second all time because John Stockton was a monster, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
Can we just talk about how Elfrid Payton just got a name drop in our GOATs conversation? That makes me really happy. Jacob
That's what I'm about,
knows
man.
ball.
We love the
He
niche
knows
guys.
ball.
We love the niche guys. So Magic, he transferred basketball with Showtime, Showtime Lakers, all that stuff. Made his teammates better. Ultimate floor general, upstanding guy, and efficient, super efficient from the field, 52%. And I keep him here at 4 instead of higher because he didn't have the longevity, both for, not his fault and also just, age. And so he had a shorter career than some of the other guys that I have above him. He wasn't a great defender, point guard, didn't have to focus on defense. I get it, but not a great defender, and lower scoring compared to peers. I think he's the greatest point guard ever, full stop. But when you take those things into account, I don't think he's a top 3 player. But who I do think is a top 3 player, and this is where you get into the range of all these guys are so close, is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I have him number 3 on my list. And if we were to take into account, because I was debating this, right? It's like, what goes into being a GOAT in the NBA? Because this topic was NBA GOATs list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, if you take into account the guy's college career, without a doubt, Kareem is number 1, in my opinion. Just amazing. But when you take the NBA, I think it's fair to put him 3. But NBA's all-time leader in win shares, if you want to look at advanced metrics. 6-time MVP, most ever. 19-time All-Star. 11-time All-Defense. The most unstoppable signature shot of all time in the sky hook. 3rd in MVP voting as a rookie. He stepped onto the court as a rookie and was immediately possibly the best player in the world. And to do that as a rookie is incredible. Did it for nearly 20 years, which in his era is pretty shocking because we talk about, LeBron's longevity. We talk about all these guys. Kareem had a really long career too. And only in his last few years did his scoring dip below 20 points per game. So the longevity's there, right? And why don't I have him higher is he wasn't a dominant rebounder for his size against other bigs. He also just it's the luck of the era, right? Like his era was a little bit weaker.
His early era
was a little bit
for
weaker.
Sure.
Yes. And when you take into account the guys above him, it's not really Kareem's fault that I put him number 3. It's just the other 2 guys are too good. And
really quick, Jacob, before we leave Kareem here, I'm glad you mentioned college, right? Because I think, if we change the conversation from like NBA GOAT to just basketball GOAT, I think that players like Kareem would hold a lot of weight. Kareem was 12-0 in the tournament, in the NCAA tournament. He never lost. And he was 82-2 for his career in college. He only lost 2 games, averaged 26.4 points per game, 15.5 rebounds, won 3 chips. It's wild what he did in college, But I just wanted to add that context that there might be a discussion about not just the NBA GOAT, but who is the total basketball GOAT. I'll pass it back to you. Like high school, college, NBA career, Olympic career. And maybe we can have a discussion around that in the future.
Yeah. I think there's a very good chance that it's Kareem at number 1 if you want to talk all-time basketball. And that was one of the things I wrestled with is, how do you reconcile these things? But if you take into account just an NBA career, I think he's number 3 because the number 2 player I have on my list, and this is where all of my generation on TikTok is going to get mad at me. LeBron James is number 2 all time.
Wow, Jacob.
Page.
Wow.
Here's the reason. So let's talk about the positives first. I could talk a lot about the case between him and Jordan, but first player with 30,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 10,000 assists. That's probably not getting broken anytime soon. Absolutely phenomenal. 6-time All-Defense, which to me, I'd kind of forgotten how good of a defender LeBron kind of was in isolation. Early on in his career, I watched some of the tape and I was like, man, this guy's locking guys down. We forget because he's whatever, ancient now, and he doesn't have to do that as much, but he was a really good defender early on. Number 1 career points, number 2 win shares, 20 plus years of elite play. He'll probably play until his grandkids start playing at this rate. Absolutely phenomenal, right? Probably the most versatile player of all time. You could debate that, but I think he's probably the most versatile player when you take into account 3-point shooting. And so why do I have him not at number 1? LeBron has scored in an easier offensive era. It is a lot easier to generate offense right now. And that's not his fault, because you can't fault a player for, playing well in the era that they're playing in. But the defense just isn't as, I'm not going to say it's not as good now, because I think there's different levels of good, but it's not as intense and it's not as punishing. And LeBron isn't as consistent of a winner in the finals. And I'm not all about rings culture, but when you start splitting hairs, it does come to account. He had 6 losses in the finals versus, obviously it's going to be Jordan first, who Jordan never lost in the finals. Brilliant player. I don't think he is as beautiful of an art form of a basketball player and has the same cultural impact as Mr. Number 1, my GOAT, Michael Jordan. And the stats are just absurd on Jordan, guys. Like, here's the stat that if nobody else hears anything except for what I'm about to say now about Jordan, this is what it is. There are only 4 players in NBA history to win MVP, scoring title, first team all defense, NBA championship, and finals MVP in the same year. Those 4 players are Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan. That's it. There is nobody else who has done all of those things in one season, let alone 4. And I don't care what era you're in, especially an era that was notoriously difficult on defense for, all the guys in that era. To do that in that any era is phenomenal. In that era, it's just otherworldly, right? Averaged 37.1 points per game in 1986 season, and he played all 82 games. He did not get injured. If he did, he played through it. Played 80-plus games in 10 of his 15 seasons, 33.45 points per game in the playoffs, which is still the highest all time, though Luka got close. But once again, offensive era. 3-time steal champ, 9-time all defense. I don't need to rattle off all the other stats, but everyone wanted to be like Mike. There's too many to name, right? And Jordan was unstoppable in every sense of the word. Played a beautiful game. Everybody wanted to be like Mike. And to me, I don't see anybody saying, oh, I want to be like LeBron. Sure, they say it, but I don't see it like be like Mike. I don't want to be like Braun. No, I want to be like Mike. I want to, watch the Gatorade commercial and yeah, that's my guy. And when you take into account all of that, and Jordan being the best two-way offensive and defensive player ever, in my opinion, I just don't think you can have him anywhere lower than number 1, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion. That's why we have these lists.
Okay, but do you think anyone will ever be better than Michael Jordan? Is it possible?
I think anything is possible in sports where, you're going to have some guys that suddenly arise. And, I'm going to make a random tennis reference, but people thought Pete Sampras was the GOAT in tennis. And then Roger Federer came along, and then Novak Djokovic surpassed him statistically. So there's always going to be guys that, rise above. Could it be Victor Wembanyama? Who knows? And I think that's the beauty of sports, right? Is these lists are fluid, and some of it's due to recency bias, but there could be a guy that surpasses Jordan. But right now, I just don't see it.
Love it. Jacob, I appreciate your list, man. And I think it's a solid list. I have all of the players on my list just in a different order, except for one player. But I'll pass it off to Ethan. Ethan, you have any input on Jake's list before we go to yours?
Listen, Jake, we were in lockstep for the first 5 picks. Okay. I mean, even just the bullet points that you were talking about with each player, I'm like, dude, how are we going to make this an interesting debate? That's a real concern right now. I guess the biggest order difference for me is I'm starting the list out at number 10, Tim Duncan. And the only reason that he fell that low is because I'm a Dallas Mavericks. I'm just kidding. No, listen, the real reason is what you were talking about. There was just that lack of excitement around his game, right? There was the lack of cultural impact. People knew that he was going to show up. He was going to do his job. He was going to do it better than everybody else. He was always going to be, if not the most exciting player on the court, he was definitely the highest quality player on the court. And the most I ever respected Tim Duncan was whenever he defeated Shaq and Kobe. And I'm just like, listen, man, keep doing that, not at the expense of the Dallas Mavericks, but just keep doing it. Like that was really fun to watch. What an unbelievable player. Kobe, same as you. I had him at number 9. I have been guilty of. I was a hater, guys. Like I there's no other way of saying it. Like I just that Portland Trailblazers Lakers series in 2000-2001, where Kobe like throws up that alley-oop to Shaq to like basically close out the series. My blood boiled. Like I was 10 years old at the time, and it did things to me. I'm like, I need to see Kobe like humbled a little bit. And then, that just continued to get worse and worse because he became, as you said so accurately earlier, he kept being compared to Michael Jordan, and for a really, really good reasons. So yeah, just that two-way monster. I mean, just the killer instinct. He's always going to have the ball in his hands in the brightest, most electrifying moments. That's it.
And Ethan, really quick, do you have like your kind of criteria points as well? Like, what are you looking for this list?
I was trying to think of something creative, like on top of what Jacob lined out as far as what the criteria is, but it's really, to me, like the sexiness factor. Like when I'm watching, and in light of sexiness, I was so close to putting Shaq and Hakeem on my list. They did not make my top 10, but
Shaq's not sexy enough, then he's gonna not like that.
He's not gonna like that, man. He's gonna call you out on his podcast, man.
I hope he does. I will happily respond to him in a polite manner whenever he argues with me. His game was not sexy, but it was absolutely dominant. But it was just missing that extra thing that that Kobe and Tim Duncan had, and they just. I'm not going to say Tim Duncan had a sexy game. You already heard me wax poetic about how he was like unexciting, but I'm still going to put him a level above Shaq. Don't at me, bro. I'm trying to think of like the interesting points. I guess I have one player from my list that was not on Jake's list, and we're going to throw the big O, Oscar Robertson out there.
Okay,
that's a good one.
I'll be honest, guys. I had so much struggle putting together this list because I wanted to be like, hey, listen, I want to be biased to just the people that I've seen since I've been alive, right? Can we make it like post 1980 goats? But we didn't do that, and that's totally fine. Oscar Robertson has to be in this conversation, if not in like the ultimate top 10. He was the dual threat point guard that just averaged a triple double basically his entire life, right? It just he was doing things that nobody could replicate on the court, just with insane vision. That's what you see whenever you go back and watch the really, really grainy footage from Big O's era. Is just he was seeing things that nobody else could see. He had that sixth sense on the court, and again, the ball is always going to be in his hands at the most crucial times. I wish that I had been around to like really, really see how he compared to the rest of the league, because you hear everybody talk about, well, janitors were playing defense back in the day. That's probably truer in his era than other eras, but we're not going to take credit away from the Big O. We're not going to do that today.
I love that. On that note, I had thought about Oscar Robertson as well. That's actually, I can get behind that, as a top 10 guy. And I think the good thing about him is the fact that other players have started to match some of his records, I think has given him a lot more credibility in a younger generation's eyes than would have otherwise. You look at Russell Westbrook, you look at Nikola Jokic, all these guys that are putting up triple doubles. If these guys weren't putting up triple doubles, you wouldn't hear Oscar Robertson's name because his records are just that awesome, right? In the triple double department. And so, yeah, I hadn't thought of that, or I had, but I wasn't entirely sure, but I can definitely get behind that.
It's a tough sell, guys, mainly because on paper, only one MVP, only one NBA championship, but he just looms large in the NBA conversation. And he just, for damn good reason, the guy was a walking triple double and just totally changed the point guard position. I mean, what was he at the early 60s when the NBA was kind of a burgeoning league? He was a big name to pay attention to. Of course, his era was dominated by, a couple people we'll talk about here in a minute. But going backwards here, Larry Bird, I had him at 6. Same struggle. He has to be in the top 5 conversation, but for reasons that Jacob already covered, like, we'll move past that. Number 5, I had Bill Russell all the way up there. I agree with the sentiment. I'm not a rings culture type of guy, but oh my God, there's a reason why the NBA Finals MVP is named after Bill Russell. Like we're going to recognize that today. If you have a trophy named after you at the highest stage in the most competitive league in the world, like you're that guy. You belong in the top 5. Ironically, Jerry West did not make this list, even though he's the NBA logo. I don't know enough about his game. I didn't do all that research except he's the logo. He deserves to get a shout out, right? But I feel comfortable with Bill Russell at ringing out the number 5 spot, and then Magic at number 4. Literally the author of The Lake Show, must watch television at all times. The undefeated rivalry between he and Larry Bird. When I say undefeated, I mean like there's never been a rivalry that stepped up and matched that intensity. From college all the way to the end of their NBA careers.
Wait a minute. And Jacob, you had Magic at 4 as well, right?
Yes, I had Magic at 4 as well for similar reasons.
Okay, good stuff. Go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, and you're gonna see that the rest of my list is the exact same order, where we got Kareem, LeBron, and MJ. And I'm glad we all agree that the GOAT conversation is always going to be between MJ and LeBron. And whenever I've had a couple beers and I'm arguing with people, listen, what I always say is Michael Jordan did things that no one could ever do, right? Just showing up and shining brightest in the most insane moments, being the guy always. Whereas LeBron also did things that most NBA players could never, ever do. And we're talking about at age 40, still being second team all NBA, right? Like it's almost impossible to argue against him being ranked at number 1. But like, I'm old enough to have watched Michael Jordan. I saw him do just insane things, and cultural impact. Nobody will ever, I don't think, ever have the reach that MJ has. The shoe brand. Oh my God. My toddlers all wore J's to preschool. So LeBron had cool shoes, I guess. And one other way that LeBron will never stack up to MJ is the original Space Jam will always be the best Space Jam.
Hey, we can all get behind that, I'm pretty sure.
Cultural impact.
Definitely. All right, cool. Thanks, Ethan. So this is good. So I'm like over here looking at my list, and I have my criteria. My criteria, championships are heavily weighted. So are season-long MVPs. Not so much finals MVPs, but definitely season-long MVPs. All NBA teams are, weighted a little lighter, but still important. And I don't take cultural impact into consideration for these. If I did, players like Kobe Bryant would be a lot higher. People like Allen Iverson might sneak in somehow if that was a heavily weighted metric for me, right? Or point, but it's not. I would say, Jake, you mentioned longevity at the beginning. And what I've said over the last couple of years is if longevity is one of your criteria points, the conversation gets very interesting. So for this particular list, I'll share that this is the first time I'm gonna put people in certain places, so it might rub some people the wrong way. And
Please.
I would say,
come on.
And I would
say, don't worry,
well,
we'll just clip it for social media and share it to the whole world.
Because I was literally arguing opposite points a couple weeks ago, but longevity is going to be a part of this conversation. Let's get into it. So 10, I got Wilt. I know, Ethan, you didn't have Wilt on your list, I don't believe.
Oh, I'm so sorry. He was number 7. I skipped right over that because it was in the same order that Jake had it. So
great. Yeah. So Jake and Ethan, I'm a little lower. Era is definitely something I consider, and that's one of the reasons I have him a bit lower. So he would be higher if the competition level was a little different, but his individual stats, despite only having a couple of titles, it's still a top 10 GOAT. This is a guy that is not on any of your lists, and this is someone who is new to my top 10, but after his most recent championship, when he put people to sleep, I was like, we gotta just come on now. Number 9, I'm going Steph Curry, 4 chips, 2 MVPs, unanimous MVPs, back to back. And although cultural impact is not a part of this discussion, I would say that the impact that he's had on the game, not like shoes and brand deals. I'm talking about the way people play the game of basketball worldwide, where you go to an AAU tournament now and you see kids pull up at half court.
For better or worse, right?
Yeah,
for better
some
or
would
worse.
Worse.
Some would argue that it's ruining the game, but it has definitely changed the game. So for me, Steph Curry is number 9. You guys have any input or thoughts on that one?
I'll
Boomers
let you
are
go
triggered
first on
right
this
now.
one, Ethan.
Boomers everywhere are triggered because, again, that statement, it's ruining the game. These kids are pulling up from half court. They think they're Steph Curry. Again, you said you weren't going to consider cultural impact. That's a pretty significant impact when you got, 12-year-olds doing pulling up from 50 feet.
Yep. And who thought that people would wear Under Armour sneakers? Like, what are we doing out here?
I haven't. I still haven't. Won't do it.
I don't think I've ever seen somebody wear an Under Armour sneakers, to be fair, but I can get behind that. He was in my, kind of that weird nebulous 10 to 12 range where it's like, Hakeem, Steph was there, Shaq. I ended up going with Shaq, but I could definitely get behind that, especially when you take into account the way that he's influenced the game. In my personal opinion, I think my struggle was, but he's not a lockdown defender.
Right.
He's not a great two-way threat. And that kind of weighed heavily on me. But once again, like, Steph,
well, neither was
I can't
Magic.
really argue.
Neither was Magic.
That's true. That's true. And I think one of the things with Steph is, and with current players in general, unless you're LeBron, is it's hard to put them in top 10 lists because they're right in front of you in a way. For some people, it's
That's
like
hard,
the opposite. Yeah. But for me, that's how it is. It's like, you're still playing. Let me see when your career's finished.
Yep.
But I can definitely get behind that.
The last championship is what put him there for me. So before that, again, I heavily weight the championships. And also people's role in championships, like Robert Horry is not here, obviously, right? So I get that part. But for Curry, just in the fashion that he won the last one, and then kind of watching him in the Olympics and just seeing at this age how he can still operate, I got Curry at 9. Number 8, someone who made it to Jake's list and did not make it to Ethan's list because he wasn't sexy enough, is Shaquille O'Neal. At 7, I got Kobe. At 6, I got Timmy. I got Tim Duncan at 6. Number 5, I believe me and Ethan were on the same page with this. Bill Russell at 5, right, Ethan?
Correct. Yep.
So everything is going according to plan so far. We're going to shake things up further down. At 4, I think Jake and Ethan both had Magic at 4. So we're lockstep there. And for number 3, I'm going to go Kareem. So here's where it gets interesting, folks. So I've been a lifelong Jordan fan. Jordan has been the reason that I got into basketball. Like you, Ethan, I got the opportunity to watch Michael Jordan's career when he was losing to winning, like wearing Bulls gear, was a Bulls fan, the whole 9 yards. So I've always been a Jordan is GOAT person. However, I'm going to make a change today. The reason is because of that longevity factor. So for me, at 2, I'm going to go Jordan. And at 1, I'm going to go LeBron James. Now, before anybody jumps in on this, LeBron James is a freaking vampire. Like we have never seen any human being do the things that he's doing on the basketball court at this stage of his career, at this age. It's wild. Guys, when Michael Jordan was 40, he was smoking cigars in Miami, right? Kareem was a shell of himself. You could go down the list. Magic was out of the league. Bill Russell was coaching, right? Kobe had like hit the cliff. You know what I'm saying? We've never seen anything like it. So because of his vampire blood, because of his timeless fountain of youth, cryogenic chamber that he sleeps in, I'm going LeBron James, number 1. I'll leave the floor open to you guys.
I love it. Listen, with LeBron James, I think that if I'm going to make the argument that he is the best to ever hang up or ever put on the shoes, it's you said longevity. I'm going to say it in a different way. He had such a commitment to taking care of his body that whenever he did get injured, it minimized the impact because he was going to lock in and recover as quickly as you've ever seen somebody recover, right? He was so committed to staying in shape and being utmost health his entire career. So I love that. I love that about his game. I used to be a hater.
Jake, anything to add on that?
I would second that, the majority of that. And I think, like you said, just the freakish nature of, once again, being able to take care of your body and setting the blueprint probably for players to come. I mean, you're even seeing it with Victor Wembanyama early in his career. This man's doing yoga. Like NBA players didn't do yoga before, but now you're seeing them do that, right? And I think that's a direct testament to what LeBron has done. And while he's not my GOAT, I could easily see why, you take into account all these factors and the sheer just consistency of being one of the top players in the league every single year you've ever played is phenomenal. So while he's not my GOAT, I can definitely get behind the idea that, he might be.
And one more criteria point I'd like to throw in there. I'm going to also heavily weight finals appearances, because the argument around like, yeah, he got to the finals, but he lost. I think that's crazy. Like when I hear people like, yeah, but his win percentage in the finals, like, wait a minute. So like we made it to the finals, and because we lost, I'm not as good. Nah, like I still made it to the finals. Like, yeah, I lost.
He was taking teams that didn't belong there. He was carrying them on his shoulders, right? Like especially early Cavaliers.
So to help my argument, I'm going to heavily weight finals appearances and not so much win percentage in the finals. That is not an important criteria point for my argument. So I say LeBron showing up to 10 championships is more than Michael Jordan. Mike won all 6 of his, and I get that, but LeBron went 10 times. And I hate that people are like, yeah, like that works against him. I'm like, no, when I hear Stephen A. Smith talk about it, he's like, he lost. I'm like, but he got there. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. The Buffalo Bills, nobody is like the Buffalo Bills are the greatest team because they made it to all of those Super Bowls. But for me, I'm always that guy that's like, hey, like an achievement is an achievement. And although it is not the achievement that we heavily weight in these discussions, for my argument, it is.
Okay. I mean, that's an incredible defense of LeBron at number 1. I have no arguments. I have a question for the two of you. Do we all agree that LeBron James would beat Michael Jordan in a one-on-one match?
I don't know about that. In their prime, I don't know about that. Because Mike is like, he's maniacal, man. He like, I don't know, man.
What rule set?
Traditional.
Modern rule set, Jordan rule set.
Say the two options again.
The modern rule set that LeBron currently is in, or Jordan's rule set that he played in?
Okay. That is a totally fair clarifier. If we're going in Jordan's rule set, then I'll let you run with that.
if we're going in Jordan's rule set, it's Jordan. Because I think the ferocity with which Jordan played defense will, if you want to talk offense, sure, you could maybe make the argument that, skill set, maybe they're both up there. I think Jordan's higher, but I could see it. Defensively, I think there's no contest. LeBron was a great defender early on in his career for his era. Jordan was a phenomenal defender in his career for all eras. And I think if you're going one-on-one, Jordan's going to suffocate LeBron defensively as much as you can suffocate a guy as good as LeBron, right? That's my take on it.
Yeah, and I think LeBron is also kind of anti one-on-one culture. Mm-hmm. He's more into like he says like that's not basketball, that's a part of basketball. And I think a one-on-one that I'd like to see is Kobe versus Mike. That would be great. But we're about out of time, and I want to make sure I give you guys a moment to share anything you're working on. So Jake, we'll start with you. What are you working on right now? Where can the people find you?
Yeah, people can find me at my Substack /newsletter, JSutHoops. That's at jsutHoops.substack.com. And most recently, I did a project where I nuked every single Jalen from the NBA and simulated the entire season as to what would happen if there were no Jalens in the NBA.
Oh my God.
But in normal stuff that I'm working on, I'm currently doing some preseason stuff, some predictions for the season to come. And also, shockingly, I have a little EuroLeague project in the works, which is going to be fun and hopefully coming out in the next few weeks.
Dude, inject this directly into my veins. I love what you're working on. I've never been as much of a sicko as I am now, and to see the excitement around Eurobasket this year and all the best players in the world, really mainly coming from Europe right now, like it was just absolute cinema. I can't wait to see your takes. I'm not working on anything crazy, guys. I am in the process of rebranding my already brand new brand, Fantasy Hoops Post. So that's where you can find me on Substack. Robin's actually been helping me with the rebrand. It's probably going to launch sometime this week, but I also am going to be doing like some Mavericks like talking points with my dad. Right, we're going to have like a little miniature 10-minute like father son. I don't know if there's going to be talking shit happening because we're both rooting for
Debate
the same team.
Like old times.
Could be like, listen, son, Bill Russell was entirely too low on your list. We need to talk about that. But that's kind of what I've got going right now. I'm super excited. This is literally my first podcast. So you guys got me hooked. This was respectful debate. But I really loved that there were some differences in our lists and definitely a difference in order. So I don't know. My cup is full.
Love it. Well, Ethan, we're grateful for you, Jake, as well. We'll be back with another episode really soon. This is NBA 360. Peace.